What if the perfect crime wasn't committed on a dark street or in a shadowy alley, but inside a government-owned flat, just a stone's throw from the headquarters of Britain's secret intelligence service? Welcome to SherlockMode. August 23, 2010. A Monday afternoon in Pimlico, London. Police officers approach a top-floor flat at 36 Alderney Street for what should have been a routine welfare check. A brilliant mathematician and intelligence analyst named Gareth Williams had missed work for a week, and his colleagues were concerned. What they discovered inside the apartment would become one of the most baffling mysteries in modern British history, a case that would spawn countless theories, from sexual misadventure to international espionage and assassination. In the bathroom of the master bedroom, officers found a red North Face sports bag, zipped closed and secured with a padlock. The bag was placed carefully in an empty bathtub. Inside was the naked, decomposing body of 31-year-old Gareth Williams, curled in a fetal position. The keys to the padlock were found inside the bag, underneath Williams' body. There were no signs of forced entry to the apartment, no signs of a struggle, no fingerprints on the rim of the bath or the padlock. Just a brilliant young man, locked inside a bag that experts would later claim was nearly impossible to lock from the inside. Who was Gareth Williams? And how did he end up dead in such bizarre circumstances? Born in Anglesey, Wales, Williams was a mathematical prodigy who spoke Welsh as his first language. By age 17, he had already earned a first-class mathematics degree from Bangor University, attending university classes while still in secondary school. After completing his PhD at Manchester, he joined GCHQ, the government communications headquarters, in 2001. Williams was described by those who knew him as intensely private, meticulous, and brilliant. A keen cyclist who competed in races and time trials. A man who never missed work, never called in sick, and was rarely, if ever, late. At the time of his death, Williams was on a one-year secondment to MI6, the British Secret Intelligence Service, working as a communications officer and codebreaker. He was due to return to GCHQ in Cheltenham just days after his body was discovered. The investigation into Williams' death would uncover strange and contradictory evidence. Inside his flat, police found approximately £20,000 worth of high-end women's clothing from designers like Christian Louboutin, Christian Dior, and Stella McCartney. They discovered wigs and makeup, all apparently unused, and many still in their original packaging. Investigators found that Williams had occasionally visited bondage websites and websites related to claustrophilia, a desire for confinement in enclosed spaces. His internet history showed he had viewed instructional videos on escapology. Yet friends and family insisted Williams had never mentioned any such interests. His former landlady in Cheltenham did recall one strange incident, however. Years earlier, she and her husband had found Williams tied to his bedposts, calling for help. He claimed he was just seeing if he could escape. The timeline of Williams' final days added to the mystery. He had returned from a trip to the United States on August 11, 2010, where he had attended the Black Hat Security Conference in Las Vegas, a gathering of cybersecurity experts, hackers, and intelligence professionals. On August 15th, Williams was captured on CCTV shopping at Harrods in Knightsbridge. He was seen returning to his flat on Alderney Street that afternoon, carrying shopping bags. This would be the last confirmed sighting of Gareth Williams alive. Forensic evidence suggested that Williams likely died in the early hours of August 16th. Yet his absence from work raised no immediate concerns at MI6. For an entire week, no one reported him missing or checked on his welfare, a failure that would later be criticized by both the coroner and Williams' family. By the time police discovered his body on August 23rd, Williams had been dead for a week. The summer heat, combined with radiators that had mysteriously been turned on in the flat, accelerated decomposition and destroyed crucial forensic evidence. The central question in the case became, could Williams have locked himself inside the bag? Police brought in experts to find out. Peter Falding, a confined spaces expert, tried 300 times to lock himself inside a similar bag without success. "I just cannot do it," he testified at the inquest. Even Houdini would have struggled. William McKay, another expert, made 100 unsuccessful attempts. Neither could replicate the scenario of zipping the bag closed and securing it with a padlock from the inside. The absence of Williams' DNA or fingerprints on the bath or the padlock further suggested someone else was involved. Yet days after the inquest concluded, a retired Army sergeant demonstrated for journalists that it was indeed possible to lock oneself inside such a bag. The technique involved a specific method of manipulating the zipper and padlock, a trick reportedly known to some thieves for breaking into luggage. In May 2012, after a 7-day inquest, coroner Fiona Wilcox delivered her verdict. Williams' death was unnatural and likely to have been criminally mediated. She concluded that, on the balance of probabilities, he had been unlawfully killed. The coroner rejected theories that Williams died during a sexual act gone wrong or while practicing escapology. She criticized MI6 for failing to report him missing for a week, which led to the loss of vital evidence. She also condemned media leaks about cross-dressing as possible attempts at manipulation. But the mystery was far from solved. In 2013, after a 16-month review, the Metropolitan Police reached a different conclusion. Williams had probably died alone in an accident. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Martin Hewitt stated that it was theoretically possible for Williams to have locked himself in the bag. Williams' family rejected this conclusion, standing by the coroner's original verdict. We consider that on the basis of the facts at present known, the coroner's verdict accurately reflects the circumstances of Gareth's death, they said in a statement. The case took another turn in 2015 when Boris Karpachkov, a former KGB agent who had defected to Britain, claimed that Russian intelligence was responsible for Williams' death. According to Karpachkov, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, known as the SVR, had attempted to blackmail Williams into becoming a double agent. Karpachkov alleged that when Williams refused and threatened to expose a Russian spy within GCHQ, the SVR killed him with an untraceable poison introduced into his ear. However, no evidence has ever emerged to substantiate these claims. In 2021, the Metropolitan Police announced a forensic review of the case, citing advances in DNA technology that might allow for new evidence to be uncovered from samples collected at the scene. Particular hope was placed on a single hair found in Williams' flat that had previously yielded incomplete DNA results. But in February 2024, police announced that the review had found no new DNA evidence to suggest someone else was in Williams' flat when he died. Detective Chief Inspector Neil John stated, "No new DNA evidence was found and no further lines of inquiry were identified." The case of Gareth Williams remains one of Britain's most perplexing mysteries. Was his death a sexual experiment gone wrong? A tragic accident during an escapology practice? Or was he murdered by foreign agents because of his sensitive work? We know that Williams was helping the U.S. National Security Agency trace international money laundering routes used by organized crime groups, including Moscow-based mafia cells. 2 senior British police sources confirmed that some of his work concerned Russia. We know that the heating in Williams' apartment was mysteriously turned on during the summer, accelerating decomposition and destroying evidence. We know that MI6 failed to report him missing for a week, despite his impeccable attendance record. We know that forensic experts found DNA from at least 2 unidentified individuals on the bag containing Williams' body. We know that no fingerprints were found on the padlock or the rim of the bath. And we know that a mysterious Mediterranean couple visited Williams' flat in June or July 2010, just weeks before his death. Despite police appeals, this couple has never been identified or come forward. Let us analyze the possibilities as Sherlock Holmes would. Theory 1. Williams locked himself in the bag as part of a sexual practice or escapology experiment and died accidentally. This would explain the visits to bondage and claustrophilia websites and the incident where his landlady found him tied to his bed. But this theory fails to explain the lack of fingerprints on the padlock and bath. It doesn't account for the DNA of 2 unknown individuals found on the bag, and it contradicts the testimony of experts who tried hundreds of times to lock themselves in a similar bag without success. Theory 2. Williams was killed by a foreign intelligence service because of his work. This would explain the professional nature of the crime scene, the lack of fingerprints, the heating turned on to destroy evidence, the locked apartment door. It aligns with Karpachkov's claims about Russian involvement and with what we know about Williams' work tracking money laundering routes used by Russian organized crime. It might explain why MI6 was so slow to report him missing, Perhaps they suspected what had happened but wanted to avoid a diplomatic incident. Theory 3. Williams was killed by someone he knew personally, perhaps in a crime of passion or during a sexual encounter gone wrong. This might explain the women's clothing found in his flat and the lack of forced entry to his apartment. But it doesn't explain the professional nature of the crime scene or why someone Williams knew personally would go to such elaborate lengths to stage his death in such a bizarre manner. The truth may lie somewhere between these theories, or in a scenario we haven't yet considered. What we do know is that the death of Gareth Williams represents a perfect storm of contradictory evidence, institutional failures, and unanswered questions. MI6's week-long delay in reporting Williams' missing destroyed crucial forensic evidence. The Metropolitan Police's handling of the case has been criticized, with the coroner condemning the total inadequacies of the counterterrorism branch's inquiry into MI6. Foreign Secretary William Hague signed a public interest immunity certificate withholding details of Williams' work from the inquest. The U.S. State Department asked that no details of his work should emerge. These actions, while perhaps necessary for national security, have only fueled speculation about a cover-up. In the end, we are left with a brilliant young man, found dead in circumstances so bizarre they seem almost fictional. A mathematical genius who spoke Welsh as his first language, earned a PhD, and worked in the shadowy world of international espionage. A private, meticulous individual whose death has become one of Britain's most enduring mysteries. Perhaps the most telling comment came from coroner Fiona Wilcox, who concluded that most of the fundamental questions in relation to how Gareth died remain unanswered. Despite years of investigation, multiple reviews, and advances in forensic technology, we may never know exactly what happened in that Pimlico flat in August 2010. The case of Gareth Williams reminds us that even in our modern world of surveillance, forensic science, and intelligence gathering, some mysteries remain impenetrable. Some truths stay locked away, like a body in a bag. He's just out of reach. If you enjoyed unraveling this mystery, like and subscribe to Sherlock Mode.